Well, on a Thursday afternoon, at around this time, we always feature New Zealand sporting history. And, it's time today to introduce former Black Cap, well-known broadcaster. He's had quite a career in broadcasting and, of course, now a financial advisor. We'll talk about that. Mark Richardson. His consistency on the pitch made him a steady hand for the Black Caps and contributed greatly to the team's success through the early 2000s. 38 test matches, and then he retired quite young, really. I would suggest about 35, I think, were you when you gave up?
Yeah, I was cooked, though. Yeah, I was in the fan bake oven, I think.
Oh, right.
Or maybe even the microwave.
Yeah,
I was done pretty quick.
Probably the air fryer.
Yeah.
Anyway, but, the figures were fantastic. We were one of our most successful top-order batsmen, an average of 44.77, which ranks right up there. And do you know which place you are in the, on the list?
No, I don't, actually. I do know that I dropped about 4 or 5 runs in my last 4 innings. That's how bad my form was.
Was that the Australian innings?
Yeah.
Which still haunts you a bit, does it?
It does, yeah. It really does. But I maintain it was a good strategy. I was on about 49, I think, going into that series, and then I dropped to about 44. And strategy-wise, I thought it was a good move because at that time the boss of Sky Sports Cricket was Martin Crowe. So yes. I thought it was a good move to get below his batting average if I wanted him to employ me.
Yeah, indeed. So let's go back. I mean, we'll get on to the whole story, but you started your international career sort of later, I suppose, than you'd usually expect.
Yeah, it took me a while. I think it just took me a while to mature as a cricketer. I made good progress as a left-arm spinner when I was young, and played first-class cricket very young. And then it was just that sort of transition of sort of my bowling not being quite good enough. But always having that cricket aptitude, always having that cricket drive to want to play for the Black Caps. It was, my life's motivation. And then, having to develop my batting. So I didn't really start batting seriously or showing any type of elite skill as a batter a little till I was, sort of in my mid-20s, approaching my mid-20s. So that's why I ended up starting late by the time I got into the Black Caps. In fact, I'd maintain that I was probably at my best as a batsman probably a year before I got into the Black Caps.
Really? And you never bowled, were you bowled?
Yeah, I bowled at my test debut, actually.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, the coach at the time, David Trist.
Yes.
I bowled the last. Flem said you're on next over. It was the last over before tea on my debut.
Who were you playing?
We were playing Zimbabwe.
Yes.
And it was so good. It was such a shock that I actually bowled a reasonable over. And then I was afterwards. I went to tea and I was like, I actually didn't bowl any long hops or full tosses in that over. Yeah. And went up and David Trist was the coach and he had no idea how it went because he said the minute he saw me coming on, he said he went and hid in the toilet. Didn't want to watch.
So how many overs did you end up bowling?
I think I bowled 11 or 12. Ended up getting a wicket.
In that one?
No, one over in that game. But then I bowled another 10 or so in a game against Pakistan on a very flat wicket in Christchurch. I managed to get a wicket. So that was one of the highlights in my career, getting a wicket.
Gave you a pretty good average, I'd imagine.
Well, it did, yeah. Better average than Sir Richard Hadley.
For your one wicket?
Yeah, 17 or something like that. Yeah.
Classic. And why do you think they did it? They just thought you were your style of left arm?
Well, the game when I bowled a few overs actually was in Christchurch. It was a really flat wicket against Pakistan and was the only wicket in the day. It was late in the third session and we hadn't got a wicket all day. And Stephen Fleming threw me the ball and said, "Have a go."
Yeah, and have a go, you mug.
Yeah, I managed to. I got out. It was named Yusuf Yohana.
Oh yeah,
for 200 flat. He made 200,
and you got him.
I got him, caught and bowled, and then shortly after that, he became Muhammad Yusuf. He changed to Islam, I maintain I was the catalyst for that, perhaps turning him from Christian to a Muslim.
Well, we've got some great stories to hear in the next half hour, but we better check out the latest headlines. Todd Zane is with us. What's happening, Todd?
2 women have been sentenced to life imprisonment for the gun murder of Karori man Ro Tongia. Shade Weston will serve a minimum 14 years imprisonment for the December 2020 shooting. Pania Waka, who drove her, has been sentenced to a minimum 10 years in prison. The government's rolled out a new fleet of data collection vans that'll trawl 80,000 kilometres of roads for potholes. About 50 Auckland Sea-Link ferry workers will strike next week over pay. And US police say they believe they've found the body of the gunman who shot and wounded 5 people in cars travelling along a Kentucky highway earlier this month. Back with full news and weather, including the mountains forecast at 3.
This week on Music 101, we announce the finalists for the 2024 APRA Best Jazz Composition Award. Jamie XX talks samples, collaborations and his new album In Waves. Connor Oberst from Bright Eyes explains why he's rolling the dice of life.
This is the first day of my life.
And Mark de Clivelow, DJ, producer, incredible musician, is our guest on the mixtape. Music 101, this Saturday from 1pm with me, Charlotte Ryan, here on RNZ National.
This is RNZ Afternoons. Mark Leishman here for Jesse Mulligan. My guest, Mark Richardson, Rigor Richardson. Can you tell us about that name, that nickname? Where did that come from?
Well, it's short for rigor mortis. And it was given to me by Shane Bond, the great New Zealand fast bowler.
Yes,
the sad thing is it was given to me when I was about 23 years old. And Shane just thought that I had the speed and agility of a dead man. In a state of rigor mortis. Yeah. So I got it. Started off as mortis actually, and then rigor mortis, and then mortis, and then it ended up as rigor.
Rigor, yeah. And people still refer to you. I mean, that's what you refer to.
Still, people I don't even know who they are call me rigor.
And do you like that?
I've always seen it as a term of endearment when when people you don't know call you by your nickname. I always feel, okay, well, they see me as someone that they can actually rib. Yeah. And I sort
they feel familiar enough because nicknames are mainly for your mates, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. But if people feel strongly or confident enough to call me by my nickname, I see that as a positive because in a way you're sort of disarming.
Yes, yeah. Now you famously transitioned from left-hand spinner into a batsman. We've already talked to that a wee bit. What was the reason behind making that change? It's quite a radical change.
Well, I started bowling rubbish.
Yeah,
basically. Simple answer. But
you weren't done with
I
the game.
desperately, since I was a young kid, all I wanted to do was be a black cap.
Yes,
and my only option left was to recover the bowling. Which, when I look back, I was a good bowler, but I was no Dan Vittori. And but I could sort of hold a bat. And it was Lance Cairns who coached the Otago team at the time. He said in his own way, he said, "Well, you can't bowl any longer, so you may as well try to bat." And so I gave batting a serious go, and sort of had to braven up, harden up, in my terms. Ball's hard, it's going to hit you. Get in there, fight, actually get some sort of masochistic pleasure out of taking on the fast bowlers, and I just started to last at the crease, started to work out how to stay in, and you just get, the more you do something, the better you get at it, and I just got better and better, and it just went from there.
So 38 tests it was, and you got this reputation of grinding it out effectively.
Yeah, when I started, I was actually quite a loose, flamboyant player. But I worked out, when I went back, when I was at my best, when I wasn't a batter, and I used to bat 10 or 11 or 9, I would actually score runs when the team was in trouble, and I had to grit my teeth and get us through to the draw or past the follow-on. And then as I got better at cricket, you want to, batting, you want to play some shots and take on the bowlers.
Play yourself
and
in.
I sort of came to the realisation that, I was okay. I used to bat at 4 or 5 for Otago. I could average 30 in both forms of the game. I'd get 100 or a couple of hundreds a year. But it wasn't enough to make a breakthrough of what was a strong New Zealand side at the time. And it just dawned on me that if I wanted to actually make big runs, I had to work out what my style was, and I worked out that it wasn't actually playing a lot of shots. It was that hang in there sort of style, and I managed to get myself to the top of the order where I was given the license to actually play that style of cricket, and it worked. And there was a spot. That's where the Black Caps were weak. They didn't have an opening. What was this
partner. Period? Who was your partner? Mainly?
So, I had a ton of partners. But when I came in, I can remember it was Craig Spearman and Matt Horn, Matt Bell, Flem opened for a wee while. It was always makeshift openers or guys that hadn't quite made it. And I just managed to just park up one end and do my thing. It just and we had attacking players to come in after me, like Nathan Astle, Craig McMillan.
Yeah.
Flynn was pretty attacking, and Chris Cairns, and they were happy for me to do my thing and block the crap out of it for as long as I could and hold up an end, and they could play around that.
So the other boys could do the flamboyant stuff.
Yeah,
the
and
boys.
with a little bit, and come in with a little bit of shine taken off the ball,
Yeah.
and have a little bit more freedom to play the way they wanted to.
Yeah, yeah. So tell us about your most the most treasured event or experience, of course, was your century at Lord's.
Yeah.
Tell us all how that transpired.
It was hard to top that.
Yeah.
I commended...
Well, I mean, for anyone to get a century at Lord's and to see your name stencilled up there on the wall.
There was a few components to it, actually.
Yeah.
One, I'd had a bad series against South Africa before that, and the coach at the time, John Bracewell, reckoned my eyes were going. So he sent me to an optometrist. He reckoned the ball's hitting the bat. I wasn't hitting the ball. And it found out that the astigmatism in my left eye had got quite bad. So
he's right.
Yeah, so I got a contact lens, and I batted in a contact lens in that series. Yeah. I don't know if that helped, but what it did was it said to me that you're not scoring runs because you're not watching the ball closely. So so it gave me a singular focus on that tool, was just to watch the ball. And I thought, wow, now I can see the ball. So I had this. A lot of the clutter in my mind went because it was just just watch the ball, which is a good process. And also, I think one of the greatest moments that a lot of my teammates had was when they beat England in '99. Maybe 99 over there, and they still talked about it. It was a highlight, and I wanted a piece of that action, and I didn't have that action. This was my chance in 04. So that was a motivating factor. And when I got to Lord's, it was Papuna, it's just another game, and then you get there and you drink in the atmosphere of the place. And it grabbed me, and I was warned by a mate of mine who was a member there. He said, look, this place can get on top of you. If you let it. This is what you're going to expect. It goes through the long room. It'll be like this. Just take it in your stride. Get out there. Pitch is 22 yards long. Nothing else changes when you're in the middle. It was great advice because you're right. You come down this beautiful old mahogany staircase and through the crowd room, and they're all applauding.
All the boys are having their pints.
It can get a bit much, but I was expecting that and missed out in the first innings. Got 93. Each one on a pad.
She's not bad though.
And then
93 debut at Lord's.
Yeah, and then the second innings, I just thought, well, back up your 93, and so I worked hard on turning that into a reasonable score. Yeah, and then it's got closer and closer.
Who were you facing? Who was?
It's a pretty good bowling attack. It was the England bowling attack that later that year went and took the Ashes off Australia.
Right.
So I was pretty proud of it. Harmison was a good bowler over there at his time. You had Flintoff, who was quite a good four with him. A guy called Jones, who was quick. A Welsh guy, he was sharp, and Hoggart, who swung the ball quite nicely. So it was a good four-pronged attack and a reasonable left-arm spinner who did a better job than I think he was ever credited with, was Ashley Giles, who later on became the CEO of English cricket.
Right.
Yeah, so he knew his cricket.
Yeah, indeed. So you get to what, the nervous 90s, and you're thinking, oh my God, I've been here before. Yeah, the last inning.
Yeah, they took a while to get through. It was just an amazing sense of. It's probably what I miss from sport is the sense of is that feeling of exhilaration mixed with relief. At the top level, a lot of it when you talk to guys after they've done really well, they'll tell you that feeling is there's a lot of relief there too because there's a lot of pressure on your shoulders. So it was exhilaration and relief. It was a wonderful feeling, and to get a century at Lord's is for many cricketers that's a goal. So. Yeah.
So your name's up there on the
but
board?
I've never seen it.
You've never seen
it actually properly engraved. No, I've never been back. Oh. I got asked if I wanted to be a member of Lord's. It was like about £250 a year, and I thought, what am I going to pay that for? What a bad decision that was. I'd love to still be a member. Now. Yeah, but they put it up on tape when you get it. So you go back in the changing shed, and the baggage person, I think that's their job. They put it up there and they put it in tape, and then later on someone comes and engraves it. But no, never seen it. I think if I do go back to England, I'd love to go back to England.
Yeah, quite an emotional experience.
Yeah, I'll definitely go to Lord's and have a look.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that was, I'd climbed my Everest, and it was sort of downhill from that point.
So you went. What, it was 101? Was your
and the game kicks you in the backside as well. You can never beat it because that was a great moment for me. Went in, came back out after tea. Sort of the adrenaline had gone a little bit. Played a bad shot, got out. If I'd batted another half an hour, 40 minutes, I would have batted us through to probably a position of dominance. Yeah. But we ended up about 40 or 50 runs short of being able to maybe pull off a win. But the time left in the game meant England won. Because our tail after me, or the middle, got knocked over by Harmison, and I sort of felt going, well, great moment for me, but I've also let the team down. So
mixed bag.
bittersweet, and that's the game of cricket. Shane Warne never got 100. The Don averaged 99. Ducking his last test.
Now there brings up a lovely tale as well. Shane never got 100. Why was that, Mark?
Well, he hit one straight down my throat. at deep mid wicket. Yeah.
Tell us about that, because I mean you've got an intriguing relationship, or had an intriguing relationship with Shane Warne.
Oh, he didn't like me, and I could never work out why. And I look at it now, and I think he's one of the greats of the game, one of the 5 greatest players ever.
Did you like him?
Not particularly, and yeah, for some reason he just took a real disliking to me, and I always. Like now, it's disappointing we could never get past that, because our paths did cross post cricket, and so many people who know him, they love him, lovable rogue, but we just never really saw eye to eye, and it would have been nice to have been able to smooth that over. But as a cricketer, it was like I wasn't fit to lace his boots. For some reason, I'm living rent-free in this guy's head.
Because there time and again he'd sledge you and carry on.
Ruthless. Really ruthless, real nasty stuff. Went over the line.
Was he one of the great sledgers?
Yeah, he was. He just had a sixth sense for the game, and he understood, and he could see your insecurities, and he could destroy you mentally. He really could. But yeah, I always wore it as a bit of a badge of honour that this great of the game for some reason.
So take us through that moment. You're standing out in the outfield, and Shane is on 99.
Yeah, you could see it coming.
Could you?
He batted so well, but he'd been hitting runs out to deep square leg, and finally Stephen Fleming put someone out there. And Dan Vittori was bowling, and he got to 99, and he sort of went block, nothing, got a short one, found point, I think, no run. You could see it was going tick, 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 tick.
Frustrating.
And I was thinking, he's going to hit one out here, isn't he? He's going to do this.
And
because it was his go-to shot.
You've been put out there.
And then, about 5th ball of the over, after 4 dots on 99, he just went whack and it went up. And the initial thought in my head was, oh no, you dick! Why did you have to hit it to me? knowing because I was never a great fielder, and knowing the significance of the moment too. I mean, the crowd was.
And knowing that if you dropped it, that he would have you for life.
Oh, it would be
for what it mattered.
Yeah, it would be one of the worst moments. It'd be one of the most sensational drops in Test cricket. And
did that all go through your head?
To it. Oh, heck yeah! Everything went through my head as that ball was in the air. Managed to catch it, because I'm thinking a lot of our guys would have been thinking, oh no, why is it going to me as well? Because I was the worst fielder in the team. But yeah, caught it and turned around, did a dumb thing, took a bow to the crowd because I'd rained on their parade.
Yes.
But yeah, it was people still talk about that, and there was a game. Shane was a good batter. He deserved a Test 100, never got it. And I like it when the game wins in some way, that you don't clock it.
Yes. Well, it's interesting, isn't it? With your career, you go, you become one of the game's characters, and for that sort of reason, you scored your 100 at Lords, fantastic. You got Shane Warne out. You had the love-hate relationship with him, and then you had this moment where you collapsed at the pitch, at the wicket, with cramps.
Oh, yeah, cramps in India.
We've got a bit of a clip of this, so we'll just slot this in now if we can.
Yeah, goodness me. He's picked up none for this. Now, this is probably one of the most funny things you'll ever see in Test cricket history. We'll have to turn the audio up on this as well. I mean, he looks in great. Look at BVS Lutchman in the background. He can't control himself. People are laughing all around because he's smashed at 70 yards and hasn't been able to move an inch.
It was a great shot, and you didn't get a run for it because you couldn't run.
No, and it was in the 90s then too, and it was the only way I could score runs off Anil Kumble.
Yeah.
The very good Indian bowler, and it was to sweep. And because when I went down and swept, it bent my back leg and I kept cramping, and that was the last of the cramps. And oh man, it felt like my whole hamstring had just exploded.
Right.
It just
literally could not move.
It was so painful. I've had cramp before, but that was That was an amazingly painful. That clip, I think, will follow me around for the rest of my life, and probably once I'm dead as well.
Well, it's kind of funny because everyone's laughing except you, of course. I mean,
I know. I was grimace laughing.
One of the commentators, he was sort of, I hope he's all right. But everyone else was going.
Well, I did a deal with umpire Shepherd, the late umpire Shepherd, who was there as well, because it happened a couple of times and it was paused. And he said, "Look, if this happens again, you're going to have to retire, hurt." And I was in the 90s. I wasn't retiring hurt. There wasn't that many overs left in the day.
Yeah.
And I went up there and I was at the non-striker's end, and it might have been Lou Vincent got one down to fine leg, which you just jog through for an easy single, rotate the strike. I got halfway down and both hammies cramped. And then I'm running straight-legged try to make my ground. And I nearly got run out taking an easy single to fine leg. managed to sort of, I said, okay, don't cramp anymore, don't hold up play. And I managed to get through that, and then luckily managed to, bring up 100 before the end of play.
Oh, my goodness. Now, then, of course, we've talked a great deal about, it is New Zealand sporting history, talking about your cricket. And the characters you've met, you're a big fan of Ricky Ponting. He was a bit of a legend, and he is a legend.
Amazing player, intimidated the heck out of me. No nonsense character, wonderful batter. I can remember going out and how much I revered him and how much he scared me at the same time was when I'd retired and I went into commentary and I got sent out to do the toss, and I was trying to do the toss interview with him, and I couldn't stop the microphone from shaking, and
He just has this effect on you.
Well, in the end, he sort of reached over and took it off me. and held it himself.
Oh,
it was, and then later on at the New Zealand Open, actually, where you did that.
Golf.
Yeah, he sort of, a guy came up and sort of made out, that I was lucky to be included with all these other legends of the game. And Ricky told this guy, he said, no, he could actually play. He just didn't let himself. It was probably the best compliment I think I've, and there's probably the one compliment that's probably meant the most to me post my cricket career.
Yeah. Now, we talked a bit before about you changing from left-arm spinner to a batsman. This seems to be a pattern in your life. You then translated whatever from cricket to broadcasting. How did that all evolve?
Well, I always wanted to be a commentator, and I was lucky that I got the opportunity to do it. Probably that's part of the reason why I got out while my record was very good as well. And that that led to then I realised that commentary in this country, unless I wanted to travel and I had a wife and was starting a family, that I didn't really want to be travelling around the world doing it. And then all of a sudden I picked up and it was only a summer job, I needed something else, and I picked up Crago's Wild job, which is such a strong brand in sports broadcasting. And that actually led to the block, and I got chances with Radio Sport, and then one thing led to another, and I ended up instead of general broadcasting on the AM show. Mm-hmm. And
then radio as well.
Yeah, and then radio, sort of afternoon talk back.
Yeah.
So I look, I mean, it all sort of came crashing down like what felt like a house of cards. But when I look back, I had 20 damn good years of broadcasting, and I have to look at it as a positive.
And you're still doing it now, of course. You're still doing commentary.
Well, I'm still doing cricket commentary, at least for the next couple of years while TVNZ has it. Not doing all the games. But I love it. I love the cricket commentary. It's a real passion. The other broadcasting I won't go back to. I've sort of done with that. But I look back at what I achieved in broadcasting and never quite became the king. But, I reached near, I had a lot of prime time, reached breakfast.
Well, the Block was a big show.
Yeah, Block was a big show. Made breakfast TV, did Radio Sport, breakfast show there for a while. I look back and I think, you know what, you did actually achieve in it, even if, you were left a little bit cold and...
at the end of it.
It
all fell apart.
Yeah.
They've been very difficult and challenging times for a lot of broadcasters.
Yeah, it's not an easy time.
No.
And, I feel for those. But
and what about your chat with Jacinda Ardern, which, again, is another famous moment?
It was. I was always told by Martin Crowe, actually, he said, when I started with Sky, he said, Rigor, please promise me that you won't broadcast how you batted. Go out and play some shots. And I sort of did as a broadcaster. And then I can remember Hal Crawford, who was the head of news at News Hub when I had a go at the AM show. And he said, well, your goal is to get noticed. And I just, it's a long story, but I just made my point, which she disagreed with. And it was at a time when, she was on the way up. People loved her. Jacinda Ardern was starting to build. And so she came hard at me. I defended my point. That point really never made the news cuts. It didn't fit with the agenda. And it just went from there. But it really did, for better or worse, and whether you agree with my point of view or not, it was a damn good boost to my brand, really. And sort of got me noticed as a little bit more than just the bloke who reads the sports news on the AM show.
That's right. It's all credit to the boys and stuff. It's you had something to say.
Yeah. And then I probably wanted too much to say after that. I was meant to chip in. They didn't realise how much I could not keep my mouth shut when all of a sudden something was in my mind. And in the end, I felt a little bit like a bit of a square peg in a round hole. And I also, I was no Paul Holmes or or Hoskin.
Well, there are not many of them around, of course, honestly. But that then, because you basically lost everything, didn't you, through the contracts at the radio station finishing, the block suddenly is no longer because the market is so terrible.
Yeah.
Everything kind of died. So you left then. This is phase 3 of your life, your career life. What happened next?
Well, it was tough because a lot of stuff dried up and you felt it was really through no fault of your own, because I felt at that time that I was still, near the top of my game. I felt I was only starting out in broadcasting. Yeah. And I had a real taste for that general sort of broadcasting. And I liked what myself and Leah Panapa were doing actually in the afternoons. We were having fun and I thought we had a good show. But, Today FM was never going to hang their head on the afternoon, with all due respect, the afternoon show. It's about the breakfast and drive.
Yes, indeed.
So that all dried up. And I was just lucky that a mate of mine who'd been in a couple of times, he was a CFO at Westpac, and he got overlooked for the CEO role and he became the head of wealth at Forsyth Bar. And he knew that I had an interest in that. And he came down the road and said, "Hey, mate, I reckon you'd be pretty good at this investment advising. How do you feel about becoming a share broker?" And I thought, yeah, because ironically, years ago when I was a cricketer, I had a decent share portfolio with Forsyth Bar. Always had an interest in it. Did a BCom. I just thought that ship had sailed. And he said, "No, you've got a decent runway left in this industry." So I had to do a few little qualifications. You got to do a level 5 certificate in financial services and then become a member of the New Zealand Stock Exchange. But I love it. And as far as I'm concerned, this is the last job. It fits with my personality. It's probably a little more closely associated with sport than it is broadcasting. You really do, you have good successes, you feel top of the world, you have a few misses with your stock picks or whatever. It feels like you've scored a duck and you're stewing it and it keeps you. But the key is I've always gravitated towards jobs that I think give you a sense of self-worth. Yeah, success at sport did that. Broadcasting to a certain extent. But without a doubt this one does, because when you're doing well, your clients are doing well. You're helping them. Yeah. And it's real knowledge thirsty as well. So you're learning about the world. And I absolutely love it.
Good on you. So when you look back, I mean, you've played with and against some of the greats. What do you take out of it? And what do you, I think, look back on? Do you look back on it with a great deal of fondness, or is there still areas where you think, bugger, I wish I'd got that right?
Oh, look, I look back at my performance in Australia, irks me. There'll always be a regret.
So this was your last
proving
before
grounds,
you retired?
Yeah, in cricket.
Yeah.
Because those are the proving grounds for New Zealand cricketers.
To do well in Australia.
Yeah. I think, India and England have their own challenges, but Australia is for us as New Zealand cricketers, for some reason, it's beating Big Brother, isn't it? Yeah. In almost the backyard.
Yes.
And I let myself down there. I was playing against a good Australian side, and I didn't realise I did have the skill to succeed. And I got away to some good starts and had some good performances and never really capitalised on them.
Yeah. So was this something in the head?
It was a mental thing.
You back? Yeah?
I mean, I was always known as a person that had a great deal of mental strength as a batter. But I think in Australia it was the complete opposite. It was the mental side of my game that let me down. But when I look back at my career as a whole as a cricketer, I'm immensely proud of what I achieved, because I don't think I was that good. I was real good. I grounded out and made absolutely the most of what I had as a batter. by and large. So I look back at that with a great deal of pride. And the fact that people still, I've been out of it a long time, and the fact that people still call me Rigor, they still remember me as a cricketer. And I look back at my broadcasting, and it's not an easy game to make it in. It's a brutal game, and I'm pretty proud of where I got to there, and I just count myself as immensely lucky to be given this next opportunity.
Good on you. Good on you. Well, it's been great chatting with you. And do you still play sport? I mean, what's your sport of choice these days?
Golf and surfing.
Oh, really? Oh, you're surfing,
well,
are you?
golfing, as an investment advisor, golf, it lends itself nicely to
nicely,
golf, taking the clients and the accountants and the likes out for a hit of golf.
And
love
the fact
my
that
surfing.
your former Black Cap helps as well, no doubt.
Yeah,
I mean,
it
plays its
does.
part. Tell a few yarns.
Absolutely love my surfing. That's my
Have you
number
always
one
surfed
passion.
it?
Yeah, I've got zero natural aptitude for the game. I am like the equivalent of probably a cricketer who plays in the 8th grade at club cricket and is the one that sort of bats at 8 and doesn't bowl, but is the first one to training and runs the bar after the day's play. That's me as a surfer, but I absolutely love it.
Yeah, good on you. Good on you. Well, good luck with phase 3. And
Cheers.
Thank you so much for
thanks for
spending some
having
time with it. No, it's been a pleasure. It's been an absolute pleasure.